In this lesson, we'll start to create the wings for our aircraft. Okay, so in this particular lesson, we're going to work on building out the wings. We're going to build the wings in a very similar method to what we build this main body. So let's start by going to Get Primitives. We'll start with a primitive circle. And we can take this circle, press the C key on my keyboard, press and hold the Shift key as I rotate this around, and rotate this to an even 90 degrees. Now, if we were to take this, maybe just pull this out, make it a little bit easier to see. Again, looking at the number of subdivisions, if I were to press the T key on my keyboard, 16 I usually find is a little bit high to start with, but if I were to bump this down to something like 10 or 12, this should be just a little bit easier to work with. Again, this is just purely a matter of personal preference on my part. Now, with this circle in place, let's jump to our side view and try to get this lined up. We'll use this and kind of make the basic shape of a wing, looking at it from the side. So we'll switch this to something like our shaded view. We'll take this circle, scale that down, and this will pretty much be the leading edge of my wing. So we'll go with a little shape like that. Now I'll come in here and again press the T key on my keyboard. I'll grab something like these last 3 points, press the V key to go back to my translate tool, and I'll pull these points out here to make kind of the back part of the wing. I'll press the X key to switch to my scale tool, sort of scale these down, pinch those down. There we are. And now we can start to take some of these points that are a little bit further back here and pull these backward to just add a little bit more curvature in here. So just pulling some of these back and around, and then back in a little bit more. I'll do the same over here. I'll grab maybe 2 of these points and just pull these back again, just sort of trying to round this out a little bit better. And maybe just grab some of these. And again, just trying to get a little bit more of a wing shape in here. There we are. That should work. Now, once we have this set up and looking the way that we want it, we can now start to loft these together. And again, we're going to do this in a method very, very similar to what we did with our main body pieces. So let's start by just taking this curve and again, press the V key on my keyboard. I'm going to take this curve and move it to where it's just barely inside the body of my aircraft. So something like that. Now, let's start by duplicating this curve. Control D to duplicate. There we are. We'll move this out to the side. And Control D once again to duplicate another section of this wing. So essentially, we'll have 3 different curves that we loft together. Now, in this case, I'm going to do the lofting a little bit different to how we had done in the past. Basically, what I'm going to do is connect these in 2 different sections. And this will make a little bit more sense once we get a little bit further along in this wing. But essentially, I'll start with the outside section of my wing. Shift, select this next piece. With those selected, let's go to Create Surface Mesh and Loft. Okay, so we'll leave that. We may come in here and start to increase the number of divisions, maybe to something like 4, so that way we have a few more divisions in here. Again, this will make a little bit more sense here in one of our later lessons once we get a little bit further in this wing. But now once we have that, I'll come in here and now just grab this last curve and then shift click to grab this next curve, the one that we had hidden just inside the body. Again, surface mesh and loft that together. And just like before, we might come in and maybe give this something like 4 subdivisions. Okay, so now we have these 2 different pieces, and what I can start to do now is take something like this curve and now pull that down, maybe out of the way. And you can see because both of these different surfaces have been lofted to this one single curve, as I move that curve, it should move both of my surfaces here. Now I'm just going to come in and just spend a little bit of time reshaping this wing. So I'll take this outer piece here, scale that down, make that a little bit more narrow, pull that down, maybe out, and maybe a little bit further forward, sort of sweep that wing forward. There we are. and try to come in here and grab that curve. Maybe pull that out a little bit more. So really just, again, very quickly shaping this wing. It looks like this outer section here might be a little bit too warped. So what I can do is just tag some of those points, come in here and just try to pinch those down, make that a little bit more smooth there toward that end of the wing. And if we start to find things a little bit difficult to see, if we want to be able to hide this grid, we can do that very easily. Just click on this little eyeball icon and uncheck this grid. Typically I use the keyboard shortcut, which is G. Just remember G for grid. Okay, and again just continuing to come in here and try and reshape this a little bit more. Maybe try to come in here and grab that curve as well. Sometimes these can be a little bit tricky to grab. So if we start to find things maybe a little bit difficult, quick and easy way to do this would be to maybe come in here to our eye and maybe just temporarily turn off our 3D geometry. That way we can come in here and grab that and go in and turn that back on. And essentially what I was trying to do is just get to that particular curve, so that way I could maybe scale that down a little bit more, narrow that down. We could also come in here and grab this curve once again. Might be a little bit easier to just turn off my 3D geometry temporarily. Come in and grab that. And I could just middle click on that eyeball icon to toggle my last selection on and off. Maybe make that wing a little bit thicker there at the base. Okay, very nice. So at this point now we have our wing geometry that has been built up out of these couple different sections. And one of the major reasons that I built this out of two pieces is because really I wanted there to be a nice sharp curve right here in the middle of this wing, a really drastic sharp change in shape. So this is a really quick and easy way of doing that without too much fuss. We'll look at how we can actually start to blend this together once we get into some of our later lessons, but for now this should work just fine. So in our next lesson we will continue working on this wing, and we'll actually start to create a little bit of a lip around here, very similar to what we did with our pilot hole